This was me, all the way back in 2005. As a child, I, like so many others across the world, absolutely adored The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. It inspired some of my first ever creative endeavours, from drawings to scripts to puppet shows, all of varying quality. Once I'd seen that MGM movie VHS tape, then the subsequent behind-the-scenes making-of documentary, I knew this world was something I'd be fascinated with for life. I got hooked on the books, and made it my mission to consume any piece of Oz media ever made. I have very fond memories of whenever I found the time, hopping on the family computer in my dad's office and just scrolling YouTube for any possible Oz-related video. Yeah, I was watching the Oz vlog before they were cool. I mean, they've always been cool, but I was there from 2009. But 1 year later, in around 2010, I think, I came across a trailer for an upcoming Oz movie that claimed to be a truly faithful adaptation of the original L. Frank Baum Oz book. I was absolutely captivated by the mix of CGI and practical effects to bring the world to life. In particular, the way they did the Scarecrow and the Tin Man looked exactly how I imagined them while reading the novel. As mentioned in my prior video, which you can go and check out if you like Oz Lost Media, there were 4 shots in particular that I remembered from this trailer. The most graphic of all will start with right away, a dead mule.
Well, the mule's dead.
A far cry from the following the yellow brick road happiness of the MGM musical most people are used to.
Follow the yellow brick road.
The mule's dead.
Follow the yellow brick road.
The mule's dead.
Follow the yellow brick road.
The mule's dead.
But hey, Return to Oz is my favourite Oz adaptation, so this darker tone captivated my child mind. This shot of the Tin Man over a mountain range, the absolutely terrifying Wicked Witch.
Silence your voice before I do it for you.
Genuinely, really disturbing, like all that sort of slush coming out her mouth. Ugh. And the aforementioned Scarecrow puppet / CGI hybrid thing. As a kid, I remember being desperate to learn more. I had to see this adaptation. Was there a DVD I could buy? Was it going to be in cinemas? Where was it? I vaguely remember keeping up with some of their updates and on-set vlogs, which slowly became fewer and fewer until one day they just stopped. And as the years grew on, and I grew up, both the Land of Oz and that trailer in particular became nothing more to me than a very distant memory. A memory which had almost completely faded, that was until last year, with the arrival of Wicked Part 1. I began to research various Oz adaptations that I remember seeing in my childhood, so I could make a big video breaking down which Oz prequels, sequels, spin-offs and more were the best, which were the worst, and suddenly that Tin Man, that Scarecrow, that witch, all flooded back into my brain. The itch needed to be scratched. I needed to find this film. But where to start? Because just typing into Google Wizard of Oz adaptation doesn't do anything. And surprisingly, Wizard of Oz adaptation with dead horse also doesn't do anything. But after a couple of hours of searching, it appeared that all traces of this film had been intentionally wiped from the internet altogether. But why? Had I just imagined this? Was this even a real thing? Well, after a couple of hours of searching, I stumbled across this re-upload of the trailer that I so fondly remembered. There, we had a name. Barnyard Studios, but any website links or social media pages seemed to be wiped from existence. Where had they gone? I could have sworn that I visited them to see behind-the-scenes content years ago, but nothing. And then the thought occurred to me. Had this been nothing more than just a fan edit trailer that was incredibly common back in the early to late 2000s, where, I mean, they're still common, they're just made with AI slop nowadays, but you just create a really cool looking trailer for a movie that will never be. That must be it. This was just a fun-made fan trailer. There was no Lost Oz movie. My childhood brain must have just created some false memories, or I must be mixing up various Oz projects. I checked the Barnyard Studios Instagram, which still exists, but there's no mention of Oz there. Maybe it really was lost to time. But no, there it was. A Twitter page, Oz Movie. It was definitely a movie, I was right, but all tweets had been deleted. If this was real, there had to be record somewhere. Surely IMDb would have it. Yes, there it was, full cast list and everything, but nowhere did it say where I could actually watch the finished film. But now, thanks to IMDb, I had the director's name. So I decided I'd send him an email, see if I could find out what happened to the film. Alas, no reply. I mean, fair enough, completely fair enough. This film started production 17 years ago, and he probably gets quite a few emails about this, so don't go emailing him, it won't result in anything. Was this the end of the road? No. I had to pull out my last resort. Trust me, I didn't want to use it, but I had no choice. I logged into Facebook. The home of embarrassing family pictures and lovely old people wishing you a happy birthday once a year, or twice if they're a bit forgetful. Shout out to Auntie Sylvia. But my gamble paid off. It was the only social media still standing. Through this Facebook page, I found loads more links to old YouTube videos, the behind the scenes, the preview scenes, all of it came flooding back. But there was one huge problem. They'd all been privated or deleted. The links were there, but they were all dead. They led to nowhere. But luckily for me, I had a time machine. Or, well, a Wayback Machine, the Internet Archives, if you will. I loaded many of the links into the Wayback Machine, and found many a snapshot of the original website I remember visiting. It was an absolute goldmine. The film was originally created by a small independent American company called Barnyard Studios and set to be released in the early 2010s. Because the original text to the book is so old, its copyright had expired, meaning that the rights to the material could be used by anyone and were completely and utterly public domain. So you watching this video, you can create an Oz film if you want, anyone can. But let's read the mission statement from their since-deleted website. From the outset, our plan has been to create a faithful adaptation of L. Frank Baum's original book, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, published in 1900. While the 1939 MGM film is a classic, it's not especially faithful to the book, and only tells a small portion of the story. What we want to do is create a film that tells a much more complete version of the story using modern effects technology, inspired by some of our favourite family-oriented fantasy films, including an eclectic array as the Harry Potter films and Jeremy Sumpter version of Peter Pan, as well as the classic Henson films from the 1980s, such as Labyrinth and The Dark Crystal, and Walter Murch's cult classic Return to Oz. We're using a mixture of live-action puppetry and CGI to bring the famous Oz characters to life. This is not Oz as you've ever seen it before. That was the aim, but it was becoming clear, reading through the hundreds of archived posts, that the behind-the-scenes process was a lot more difficult and troublesome than expected. But let's flash all the way back to the beginning, 2007. The seed of this idea begins to bloom in the minds of the filmmakers. It takes a couple of years, but the metaphorical film plant finally sprouts in April 2009. Social media pages created, and more announcements on the way soon. Filming officially begun on June 18th, 2009, starting with all of Dorothy's scenes. Knowing that the project would take a while, they needed to film her parts early to avoid the child actor aging noticeably during the shoot. Her scenes were mainly done on green screen. Actually, most of the film was. I mean, that's of its era. The late 2000s is just off the back of all the Star Wars prequels, which were pretty CGI heavy to be fair. Through the Wayback Machine, I found these recreations they made of the original novel's illustrations, but in live action, and the whole thing just looks so cool. Oh, and shout out to the people on the production team who were Doctor Who fans. It's so cool to know that they have not just impeccable taste in Oz, but impeccable taste in television. Shooting continued on and off over the next few years. Now, it's worth noting at this point that it became quite apparent that this was a small independent group of filmmakers rather than a major Hollywood studio. They were almost certainly juggling this project alongside regular jobs, which probably explains the long production timeline. So if this wasn't a big studio-backed movie, how were they funding all of this? Well, like every other project at the time, Kickstarter, at least to begin with. It appears that over the years they formed a couple of different partnerships with various small film companies. These partnerships came and went, pumping small amounts of money into an ever-ballooning project. But there was a huge problem. As the film expanded in budget and scope, so did the time that it would take to make. I mean, this is something that any amateur filmmaker has probably found out. I've found it out, you watching this video may have found it out, and if you haven't and you want to make a film, you'll find it out eventually. The passion and creativity were absolutely there, but the practicalities got in the way, time and time again. But to be fair to them, it didn't stop them. By 2013, lots of the film had been completed. They shot the Kansas scenes with Aunt Em and Uncle Henry. That's where the infamous shot of the dead mule came from that sticks in my mind to this day. And they were now having to hire a stand-in body double for Dorothy since the original actress was no longer a child because, you know, the passage of time is a thing. As 2013 came to a close, it seemed that a large chunk of the film, the vast majority in fact, had actually been shot. All of the wizard scenes, all of the witches scenes, the list goes on. Things were finally picking up. 2014 passed, then 2015, and the CGI heavy look of the film began to shift. They started making miniatures, loads of insanely cool little sets to chroma key their actors into. They actually released a clip of the Emerald City Wizard's Palace Wizard's Chamber thing, which has since become lost media. I've got no way of seeing it, but there's a picture that survives, and it looks pretty cool. Then, after years and years of production, on the 15th of May 2016, to celebrate L. Frank Baum's 160th birthday, or what would have been, the Facebook page releases a statement, which ends up becoming the last statement they'll ever post. They reassured people in the comments that there was more to come, but radio silence. As the years went on, the website vanished. The videos were privatized or deleted. It looked like the dream was gone. The wonderful Wizard of Oz would never see the light of day. But then, in 2019, after years of inactivity, they reshared a random article about a yellow brick road that had nothing to do with the film. Yeah, I bet you got excited there, so did I, but ha. But in all seriousness, there is actually an update. After finding their Kickstarter page, which you can no longer donate to, I noticed one very determined fan is still there, fighting these battles on the front lines, asking for updates all these years later. She's the one soldier fighting a war that ended decades ago. And in 2022, she and we finally, at least for now, got our answer. The producer of the film said, "Since I see some unrest, I figure I ought to fill you in. Most of you being friends and family know this, but for the rest of you, all the things that were true are still true. We still have a contract with the same company. It's been long enough that if they wanted to kick us loose, they could have. But they're still working on trying to find a way to get the visual effects done. Every time we've had things in motion, contracts signed, etc., it's all evaporated with no explanation. And that was before the pandemic. At our director's wedding this summer, I was chatting with one of our cast members who has been working on other projects and has various industry contacts and connections. He passed on some leads for potential VFX artists that I have now shared with our director. The director is exploring some additional options that may enable him to create a number of the needed visual effects shots on his own, thus reducing the size of the ask that we're putting putting on any VFX house. So I still don't have any answers, but we haven't given up. We're just sort of stuck for the time being. So there you are. One day, maybe. As I said, this video is technically a part 2, so I am gonna rank in my tier list how much I'd like to see this adaptation. And you know what? I'm gonna put it right up there with the Buddy Ebsen cut. Like, it would fulfill that little part of my childhood that I remember so fondly to actually see this film one day be made. Now you may be wondering, just like I am, why on earth have I spent so many hours trawling through archived links, the Wayback Machine, deleted posts, then compiled them all into this video? Well, I'll tell you. In this age of AI slop absolutely dominating the internet, films like this mean something. They're genuinely important. Honestly, this production inspired me. Seeing huge, borderline impossible creative projects with little to no budget made young me go, yeah, you know what, that looks like fun. I can do this. Sure, it's not Wizard of Oz related, but I've made my own films, my own fan films, mainly Doctor Who. And there's definitely a part of me that knew these films were possible to make because of the behind the scenes that these guys posted so many years ago. And we've had the best time, with the best cast and crew creating something that, sure, may not look entirely professional, but that's the one thing that AI can never take from us: true human creativity. Sure, AI can technically generate a video of a realistic-looking Tin Man or a talking lion, but I would rather watch this every day of the week than that AI stuff. Films aren't just about how polished they look. They're about the brains put into them, the heart it takes to ignore the problems, and the courage it takes to power through and keep believing even when nobody else does. Yeah, I did throw up a little bit in my mouth when I wrote that line, but it was fun to slip in the reference, okay, I hold my hands up. If anyone who did work on this film happens to be watching this video, I honestly just want to say thank you. You inspired young me to be more creative. And absolutely no pressure to release the film ever, to be honest. Totally, I get it. We shot too much stuff on green screen for the film I'm working on at the moment. Like, it has taken us years. We've been delayed by years as well. And I also want to stress to you watching this video, don't go and send masses of emails or harass the people that worked on this project. Don't demand that they release it tomorrow or that they send a DVD to your door straight away. As I've said, the best part of this movie is the human creativity and passion behind it. And speaking from experience here, nothing destroys creativity and passion like strict, imposed deadlines from random people on the internet. Be excited for the movie, sure. I am, if it ever is to exist, but you know what I'm saying. Even if we never see the full movie, what a trailer they created. Those images stuck in my mind, and probably will stick in my mind forever.
The mule's dead.
And that brings us to the end of the video. I hope you did enjoy this obscure, very obscure deep dive. I have no idea, this might get like 3 views. If there's one of you watching, prove that you're still watching by commenting, I don't know, by commenting AI Tin Man slop is smelly. What a great comment. That'll prove that you're I'll shut up now. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I talk about movies and stuff on this channel. New things, new TV shows, Back to the Future, Oz, Stranger Things coming soon. Loads of stuff. Subscribe. Cheers. Thank you. Goodbye.
The mule's dead.